All right, back to work, right? This is not what we would normally do. We would normally, if we were at school, be going into a whole series on animation. And I'm really sorry that we can't do it the way I would normally do it. I would much rather be at school, but the remoting in thing just isn't working all that well. So we're going to adjust and we're going to do some other things, but it'll all be fine. All right, so the next thing that we're going to work on is going to be a little bit of perspective drawing, and we're going to use a program that you can just get on your Chromebook. In fact, I'm using my Chromebook to make this movie, so I'll show you exactly what this is going to look like. We're going to use Autodesk Sketchbook. Maybe you've already installed it. I don't know, but I'm going to go down here to the Google Play, the Play Store icon at the bottom. I'll click that. Here's what you should do first. Now, mine shows it right here. It's the very first icon. Yours might not. You may have to go up here and search, and what you'd be looking for is right here, Autodesk Sketchbook. I searched for it earlier, so it's showing up on my my recent searches. So you can click that, look for Autodesk Sketchbook. Here's what the icon looks like. Looks like a little pencil. Click that and install. All right, hopefully won't take too long. We have to wait for it to download. The install, when everything works like it's supposed to, it's a pretty quick thing. Mine is already installing right now. Doesn't take too long for it to get installed. All right, it's in. It's installed. So I'm going to go ahead and close this Play Store window here. I'll just get rid of that. So let's look at where you're going to find it and a little bit about how to run the program and what I want you to do today, what I'm going to ask you to work on. If you drag up on the bottom taskbar down here, you'll have all of the the little apps and programs and things that you have set up on your Chromebook. So I'm going to drag up on the black bar at the bottom, scroll that down. There's Autodesk Sketchbook right there. There's other ways to start a program, so do whatever you know how to do. First of all, there's going to be a software agreement. Accept that. It's going to talk about wanting to store your brush data and sketches on your device. Say okay to that. And it wants to access your photos and media and files. Allow that. And here we are. We're in the program. Now, there's kind of a canvas here or a document, whatever you want to call it. And what I'm going to do, and you can't see me do this, but I'm going to take my thumb and finger and I'm going to pinch. And you see what I've got there, right? So you can zoom in and zoom out with the thumb and forefinger pinch. Just either bring your fingers together or apart, and you can zoom in and zoom out. And we could definitely just use this document for what we're doing today. If you really want a different dimension document, there's a menu up here. You can click the menu. You can click New Sketch. You could say, if I go to Others, there's all kinds of different dimension things that you can do here, like mobile, and these are all pixel dimensions, like 1024 by 600, 1136 by 640, 1280 by 720. It doesn't really matter a whole lot to me what size you make this. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just hit escape on the keyboard, and I'm just going to go ahead and use this document that I have right here. I accidentally made a little black dot there, so I'm going to clear that. All right. So a couple of things. These are just little things about using the program that I would like for you to know. Over here on the right-hand side, this is like a layer panel, and there's a thing that says background. If you click background, you can, if you wish, change the background color. I don't really care what you do about background color, but you can change the background color if you want. All right, that's kind of up to you. I'll set mine on kind of a neutral gray, and then just click off of that to make that go away. So that's where it says background over on the bottom right-hand side. Over on the left-hand side, you've got all these different brushes and tools and things like that you can use. And like if you click on a tool over here, tap or whatever, like this is the technical pen, which actually turns out to be the one I'm going to use today. There's a primary pencil. There's a fountain pen. There's all kinds of pens and brushes and things like that over here that you can play around with. This is actually a pretty cool program. But I am going to be, today for what we're going to do, I'm going to be using the technical pen. And so it's right there for me. It is what? It's 1, 2, 3, 4 tools down. That's the one I'm going to use. You don't have to use the technical pen, but that's the one I'm going to use. There are sliders here for opacity and size. I'm going to show you another way that you can work with opacity and size here in a minute, but you can click on the tool on the left and set the size and the opacity to what you want them to be. Now, I do want to, that's the next thing I'll show you. Way down here at the bottom, at the very bottom in the middle, there's a little tiny dot down here that if you click it, you'll see these little options pop up here, and they do different jobs. I'm not going to go into all of these today, but I am going to turn on this one called the double puck. I kind of like it because the double puck is a kind of a quick way to control size and color. All right, great. So I think I'm going to use that. Now, we're not going to get into all of these tools that are on this, on this toolbar across the top, but we'll use some of them, and we'll get into more of them as we go along. All right, so if I take this, and by the way, I'm just going to do this with my stylus. You could do it with a mouse, but if I take my stylus out here and I just drag it around here, I'm drawing with the tech pen. Control Z is undo. You can also hit backspace to undo. If I want the pen to be thicker, I can go up to this puck and drag to the right. And if you see that little size thing, I'm up to 5.4. I just made a thicker pen up there. Or I could tap my stylus and drag to the left. The puck kind of disappears when you do this, but I'm just moving my stylus to the right or to the left to adjust the size. And I'm going to go with about a 5-point mark on this, a 5-point technical pen brush. Now also, if I wanted to, I'll do a couple of Control Z's there. Also, if I wanted to, I could tap on that black part of the double puck, and that's for the color of the pen, right? So I could change it to a different color if I wish, like that. Okay, cool. I'll Control Z that. So that double puck gives you kind of a quick control on size and color. It's not the only way you can do it, but it's kind of a nice quick control. All right, now we're going to do some 1-point perspective drawing. So here's how we're going to set that up. On the toolbar at the top, there is this box, and I'll use my mouse. I have a mouse connected to my Chromebook. I don't know if you have one of those or not, but it's a USB mouse, and maybe, sometimes that's a good idea if you have one, but if you don't, you make it. Right here is what's called the perspective guides. So I'm going to click that, and I get a menu that pops out. All right. We want to do, for today, I want to do 1-point mode, 1-point perspective. Okay, we'll get into some of the others later. But then over here, where this thing looks like a starburst, it says infinite grid. I'm going to click that. I don't want it to be an infinite grid. I want it to be a constrained grid. All right, and what that does, and you can kind of adjust this however you want, it gives you these little handles that are on the document here, and I can stretch it out so that, and I'm wondering if I ought to maybe change my background here. Is it better if it's white? Yeah, I'm going to change my background to white. You might be able to see that better. So I can stretch it out, and I can take the corners of that constrained grid and kind of define. It's not that the perspective thing won't work outside of the box, but I could just kind of make it fit the way I want. This grid button right here, customize grid, you can do what's called increasing the density if you wish, and you can take this density slider, and what it does is add more like guides. These boxes and lines that you see are like guides, and they're going to help you kind of draw in perspective. And you can increase or decrease the density of those guides. All right, so again, think about what I did here. Let's review. I went to perspective guides up here. I want 1-point mode. I went over here and I said I didn't want an infinite grid. I wanted a constrained grid, which I can use these little dots on here to adjust. And then I went over to the grid, the customized grid thing, to kind of set it up the way I want it to be. So now let's kind of get into what we're going to do. And I think I'm going to change my color since those lines, those guidelines are blue. I'm going to change my color to black, and my black lines might show up for you a little bit better. I just want you today, the assignment is, I just want you to draw, like we're going to draw like 6 boxes that are in perspective, and they're all disappearing back toward that vanishing point that's in the middle. And you can arrange them however you want. What I'm going to do is put like 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top and 1 on either side. And you can have more than 6 if you want to, but here's the idea, right? When the perspective grid is active, if I take my stylus, I've got the technical pen, I've got it black, and I've got it set on 5. If I take my pen and I just draw across like that, it's going to kind of constrain it to be horizontal like that. I'm using my guides there to help me, and you can pinch to zoom in if you want to be able to see, and I'm going to close that. Oops, I turned off my grid there. Don't want to do that. I pinch to zoom in a little bit so that I can see a little bit better, exactly what that's going to look like. Now I'm going to take a line and draw down this diagonal here, this perspective line right there, and I'm going to do that. And I'm using my stylus. I'm going to draw down like this. And if you really want to zoom in and get the details here, I could pinch again, and I could come in here really close and say, all right, let's close that up. All right. That's what I mean by drawing a box that's in perspective. Now you'll notice that this corner of it over here, this kind of back left corner that's closest to us, I didn't really get that perfect. I'm not going to be too worried about perfect, but if you're more worried about perfect, there are over here on the side, there are eraser tools, and you can adjust the size of the eraser as well on the double puck here. You can adjust the size of the eraser if you need to. And if I want to, I could come along and just kind of stroke with that eraser tool and clean up that edge a little bit. I'm not going to be worried about perfection here. So again, I'm using my fingers here to move this around and zoom in, zoom out, that kind of thing. And let's keep going here. I'm going to make another box. Oops, I got to switch back to my technical pen. Sorry. All right. I'm going to draw a line like that. I'm using the perspective guides to help me out. And I'm going to draw down like that. And I'm going to draw down like that. And again, I'm going to use my zooming in, my pinching gesture here, so I can get in there. All right, so you see, and again, I didn't really get this corner super perfect right here. So I could get the eraser and fix that, but I'm not going to be fussy about everything being all perfect. All right. So let's do I'm going to do a couple on top. Well, what your assignment here is that I want 6 boxes that are in perspective. You could have more than that if you want. I'm always okay with more. But I'm just going to finish this up here. All right. Again, probably got some corners on there that aren't like just absolute perfection, but I'm not going to worry about that. What we're trying to do is learn how to use the program. We'll get better at it. All right, there we go. I'm going to zoom in on that. Cool. Now to finish off mine, again, the requirement is 6 boxes. I've said it several times. All right, so oops, I did a little accidental dot there, which really doesn't hurt anything. But so I'm going to draw one over here. I'm using my stylus. Again, there's a little imperfection there on that corner, and I could go get the eraser. I'll get the eraser and just kind of carefully stroke a little bit and fix that. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. You don't have to do it perfect. Let's just learn how to use it a little bit, shall we? All right. And then I'm going to come along. I got one more to go. I'm back to my technical pen here. Make one more. These are all being drawn in perspective because the grid is helping me constrain my lines so that they all move toward that vanishing point. Here we go. Now here's an option. Really, this is done. That's what I want you to try and do today. And it doesn't have to look just like that. It's 6 boxes that are drawn in perspective by using that perspective grid. But here's an option. There is, on the toolbar up here at the top, there's a bucket tool, a flood fill, right here, a fill tool. And as soon as you click it, the perspective grid turns off. If you go back and click on the perspective guides button, your grid comes back. So you didn't lose your guides. It's just when you switch tools, they turn off. All right, so there's that. Now I'm going to fill these just because I feel like it. And the way you do it, first of all, in case there are little gaps in the borders, it's a good idea to turn the tolerance of the fill bucket down. Turn it down pretty low. That way, if you do have little gaps, you're probably going to be okay anyway. Also, I don't want to fill it with black. So over here, and we'll get into, you can fill with gradients, linear gradients and radial gradients, and we'll get into that later. But over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to tap this black dot that's over here. And I want to fill these, and you could use a variety of colors. You could fill everything with a different color, but I'm just going to do it kind of quick. I want to use, I'm going with a black and orange theme today. So I'm going to take orange here, just tap off of that. And then sometimes you have to press kind of hard with your stylus. You have to give it a good punch there, a good tap. Don't break your screen or anything, but you got to give it a good tap, and it will fill those up. Now, filling's optional. I don't care if you fill them or not, but those boxes are drawn in 1-point perspective because they all slant off toward that vanishing point. And this is just us getting used to the program and learning how to use it a little bit. All right, now it's done. What do I do? All right, well, here's what you do. Go to the menu, and the first click that you do here is share. And what I'm going to do here is just save to device. There's a lot of ways that you could tackle this, but I'm just going to do save to device. And down here at the very bottom, on the bottom left-hand side, it's got a really weird, it's going to be saved as a PNG file, but it's got a really weird, it's just got it says sketch, and it's got a bunch of numbers. All right, so I'm going to take out that, I don't know if I can get rid of I got rid of the taskbar thing. I'm going to take out the numbers, and I'm just going to call this boxes 01. All right, it's going to be saved as a PNG. So I'll call it, and you can see where I've been playing around with this program before. All right, so I'm going to hit save. And that, I think, I should have really paid attention, but I believe that went into, if I do share, save to device, I think that went into my downloads folder, I think. But here's what you can do. Once it's saved, and no, it went into my files up here at the very top. It's in the my files thing. So I'll tap escape there. Can I go back? Yeah, I'll just save it. That's fine. And then to get out of the program, now that this is saved, I can just tap the escape key, and you'll get you get all these options: exit, save and exit, cancel. So I'm just going to exit. I'm done. If I go look on my Google Drive here, I do believe that, well, no, actually I may have to go to down here to files. If I go down to my taskbar and I go look at files, and if I look at my files right here, that's the one I just made, boxes 1. And so what you would have to do is turn that in on Google Classroom. All right, if you have difficulty turning things in on Google Classroom, you can contact me, and I can kind of talk you through that. I can send you, some help about that. Now, you would have the option here. This is in my files, right? I would have the option if I'm on my Google Drive, which I am right here. I could upload it, right? I could say new file upload. And I'm looking on my files, and there's that boxes 1 right there. I could open that up, and I'm uploading it to my Google Drive, and that might make it a little bit easier for you when you go to Google Classroom and you're trying to turn this in. then it might be easier for you to find it. I mean, either way, all you got to do is get it attached on the assignment on Google Classroom. Like I said, if you need any help with that, you can let me know. All right. Well, we're going to jump in and give that a shot. Again, when you're doing watching the movies take longer than doing the assignment probably, but sorry, too many thoughts at once. When you're all done, you just work through it. Don't worry when you're doing the assignment. This is what I wanted to say. When you're doing the assignment, don't stress about it having to be perfect, and super pretty. Right? We're trying to learn how to use the program. All right, gosh, let's go give it a shot.